Hey everyone, my name is Junaid and welcome to a new series we're calling Analyst Reacts. It's a series where I react to financial movies, TV shows and videos and unpack the realism behind them and explain some of the underlying financial concepts. Today we're starting off with a bang at The Wolf of Wall Street. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. If you haven't heard of The Wolf of Wall Street, it's a film directed by Martin Scorsese covering the life of Jordan Belfort, who builds his brokerage firm and earns millions and millions in the process by defrauding investors through pump and dump investment schemes. Now, with Hollywood being Hollywood, I'm sure that there were creative liberties taken in making the film, but in between all of the eccentricity and debauchery, there are lots of sound financial concepts that we can dive into. So I'm going to try and react to these scenes in chronological order, and the first scene we come to is when Jordan gets his first job on Wall Street.
You are lower than pond scum. Your job is connector, which means that you will be trying to connect me with wealthy business owners. And until you pass your Series 7, that is all you're going to be doing. Just so you know, last year, I made over $300,000. The other guy you'll be working for, he made over $1 million.
So we see here that Jordan gets his first job on Wall Street as a connector. So his job is essentially finding wealthy businessmen or in high net worth individuals and connecting them to the senior broker. As of yet, he can't deal with any trading of securities or doing anything on behalf of clients. He's just finding people to then hand over to the other brokers. And this is where we first hear the senior broker mention the Series 7. The Series 7 in the US is an exam that an individual has to pass in order to become a licensed broker or trader. It lets you buy and sell a range of different types of financial securities like funds, options, contracts, etc. on behalf of your client. The exam is administered by FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, the financial regulatory body within the US, similar to the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority here in the UK.
Think about Teresa. Name of the game, move the money from your client's pocket into your pocket. Number one rule of Wall Street. Nobody, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or if you're Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if a stock is gonna go up, down, sideways, or in circles, least of all stockbrokers. So if you got a client who bought stock at 8 and it now sits at 16 and he's all happy, he wants to cash in, liquidate, take his money and run home, you don't let him do that. No, what do? You get another brilliant idea, another stock to reinvest his earnings and then some. And then you just keep doing this again and again and again. Meanwhile, you and me, the brokers, we're taking home cold hard cash via commission, mother.
In the scene where Belfort's having lunch with Mark Hanna, the Matthew McConaughey character, Matthew's character tells him that the firm that their brokers work for, LF Rothschild, makes money through transaction fees. They don't really care whether a client makes money or not. The client's investment could go up or it could go down. But whether it goes up or down, the firm doesn't care because the brokers make money through every transaction that they facilitate. That transaction could ultimately lead to a decrease in the client's investment or an increase in the client's investment. Here he tells Jordan to keep the client in the game, essentially don't liquidate their money for them and keep them reinvesting in new stock, a new company. That way your transaction fees keep stacking up and you're taking home more and more commission. Mark Hanna also says that nobody, Warren Buffett, Jimmy Buffett, stockbrokers or otherwise, know whether the stock market is going to go up or whether it's going to go down, which is absolutely true. Now in the next scene we come to, Jordan finally has his Series 7 license. He's a licensed broker on Wall Street, but on his first day as broker, October 19th, 1987, the stock market collapses.
I was a licensed broker at last.
I have Exxon at 86 and a quarter 6 months ago. Today it is trading at 36 and a half. Mr.
Our market's out.
Stick holdings, this is not something that you want to see. You know what happened?
Not answer the phone. A lot of people are going to be calling you, trying to get your dirty loan.
A lot of activity. You don't know what's going on here.
I know.
Within a month, LF Rothschild, an institution since 1899, closed its doors.
October 19th, 1987 was called Black Monday in the US. It was the biggest global stock market crash since the recession of 1929. The S&P index dropped 20.4%, the Dow Jones a little more than 22%, and the US market specifically saw the greatest one-day percentage drop in history. LF Rothschild, the company that Jordan's working for, in reality they did actually go bankrupt and collapsed. Once the crash happened, the Federal Reserve sort of stepped in almost as a sort of crisis manager. They began providing market liquidity to prevent a liquidity crisis, which was imminent, and they did their best to offset the imbalance between buy and sell trades. Now, I'm no financial markets expert by any means, but I could do a more in-depth video about the causes and effects of the crash That would just require a bit more research on my behalf than I've done for this video. Moving on to the next scene. Now Jordan has been swallowed up and spit back out by Wall Street, and he gets a job at a small company called Investor Center.
Where are your quotrons?
No, we don't even need computers here. We just trade right off the pink sheets here. Yeah, they're penny stocks. You know, companies that can't get listed on NASDAQ, they don't have enough capital. Their shares trade here. This one, Aerotyne, is a really interesting, Aerotyne.
Aerotyne, yeah.
Aerotyne.
Aerotyne, yeah.
Very hot stock right now.
Yeah? 6 cents a share? Come on. Who buys this crap?
Postmen, there's always postmen.
Right.
Plumbers. We're helping them finance houses. We're helping them buy their wife a diamond ring, a boat, maybe.
Is this stuff regulated, or you guys, what are you doing here?
Sort of.
Sort of? The spread on these is huge.
Yeah, and that's the point. Jordan, what do you get on a blue chip stock?
I make 1%.
Pink sheets, it's 50.
50%? 50% commission?
Now this is where we're introduced to pink sheet stocks. They're aptly named after the color of the paper that they're listed on. They're also known as penny stocks. Now pink sheets or penny stocks are for companies who don't meet the requirements to be able to trade on a big stock exchange. Maybe they don't have enough capital, so they trade in the OTC or over-the-counter market. Nowadays, since everything's digital, pink sheets is actually an outdated way of describing the stock itself. Now generally, companies who trade in OTC markets generally don't have a lot to offer investors in value, which is part of the reason they're selling company shares for literal pennies. Now in the scene we see that Jordan realizes that because the volume of trades in pink sheets is so low, the commission rate for him as the broker is much higher than when he was working at LF Rothschild or any other brokerage firm. So he realizes he needs to employ his sales skills and oversell these stocks to investors, essentially lying to them. I mean, he describes the company Aerotyne International as cutting edge and high tech, and the scene cuts to a garage in the middle of nowhere with Aerotyne painted over the door. And this is ultimately what Jordan Belfort does to make his fortune. He defrauds investors by misrepresenting investment opportunities that he's pitching to them. And at the beginning you can see he's dealing with slightly less educated investors, people who weren't privy to the financial industry, people who were easy to swindle and persuade into putting all their savings into bad companies. But ultimately he realizes that to build his wealth and take it to the next level, he needs to go after higher net worth individuals. Now Jordan understands marketing, so what he does is create his own brokerage firm called Stratton Oakmont, which on the outside is a polished and reputable firm on Wall Street. He gives all of his employees a script to follow, and what they're essentially doing is insider trading and stock manipulation, taking a firm to IPO, the initial public offering. For example, Steve Madden. Now, Jordan's brokerage firm in real life actually did take Steve Madden out to their initial public offering, and what they would do is pump up the share price by getting all of their clients to invest into that stock, pumping up the price, making it go higher and higher. Then they would offload all of their positions that were held secretly, ultimately netting them a hefty profit. Now we come to the part of the movie where Jordan is making millions and millions. The entire operation is off the charts, and thanks to too much attention and scrutiny from the FBI, Jordan decides to try and hide some of his money and assets in a Swiss bank.
Jordan, Jean-Jacques Sorel.
Pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Nice to meet you.
Curious about your bank secrecy laws here. Under what circumstances would you be obligated to cooperate with an FBI or a U.S. Justice Department investigation, for example?
The only way the Banque Reale de Genève would cooperate with a foreign legal body is if the crime being pursued is also a crime in Switzerland.
Unless, of course, it was an investigation into stock fraud, which is a crime here in Switzerland, if I'm correct. Then there would have to be cooperation.
Assuming the account is under your name. If it were another name, a friend, a camarade.
Cousin?
Cousin, absolument. From a financial standpoint, you are now in heaven.
In the meeting, Jordan finds out that Switzerland is essentially a financial haven for him. The Swiss bank won't comply with any subpoenas from the FBI or any other Justice Department unless the crime being investigated is also a crime in Switzerland. And while stock fraud is a crime in Switzerland, the official from the bank tells Jordan that if he were to open an account in the name of, let's say, a relative, then all of those investigations into stock fraud won't affect him at all and he's home free. In reality, the Swiss bank was called, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Union Bancaire Privée. That sounded more French than Swiss, but they helped not only Jordan Belfort, but numerous other US clients to hide their income, assets, and avoid paying tax in the US. They did this through a number of different entities and schemes and disguised structured transactions, and ultimately they ended up paying $187 million as a penalty to avoid prosecution by the acting assistant attorney general at the time. Remember everyone, a crime with a fine is only a crime if you're poor. Now, my personal experience in finance is quite a bit detached from what was shown in the movie. Since nowadays with social media, cameras and hyper connectivity and everything being so highly surveilled, offices in investment banking or the broader range of finance are no longer what they've been portrayed to be. There are definitely stories from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s that might be seen as similar parallels to certain scenes in the movie, but nowadays the mania is much more subdued. Nowadays you tend to hear more keyboards clacking than midgets being thrown at dartboards. So that's the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know how valuable my insights were. This series might just turn into me rambling on about movies. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button and I will see you guys in the next one.